going on, everybody? It's Adrian B. Little Miss Jersey back at it again. This time we are here in the Art Factory with one of the amazing chefs that is coordinating so much today, and he is going to introduce himself.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Chef Ameer Natson, Fresh Chef Caterers. I'm sure we'll talk about all of the other amazing stuff that we do here in this incredibly beautiful space. But I am Ameer is the moniker I like to go by. Kind of leaves that question mark.
Hello.
How are you?
So where did Ameer start?
Oh man, so I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, largest city here in New Jersey, just a few miles up the highway, a few different main roads that bring you here to Patterson. But my father brought me a hot dog cart when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
He owned a beauty salon and a beauty supply store on the corner of Clinton Avenue and South 11th Street.
Okay.
And growing up, each of the businesses that he owned, he was a serial entrepreneur before they even knew what being a serial entrepreneur was. And he always made money, but never made money. I guess we can talk about what that all looks like later. But he said to me, he said, son, I'm going to teach you how to be an entrepreneur. And so he brought me one of those little Sabrett hot dog carts. Mm-hmm. And that was my introduction to entrepreneurship. It wasn't to teach me how to become a chef. It wasn't to get me into food. But it definitely, was to teach me self-sustaining, running, building your own business, really controlling your destiny. But of course, in that space, I fell in love with food. So.
And that's amazing. So where did you actually expand your love of culinary arts along your journey, right? So
Yeah.
starting off with the hot dog truck, how did you get into gourmet?
So I would make my own chili from scratch. There were things as a kid that I hated or I disliked, but I was very passionate about it. So we're gonna say I hated about the hot dog that the guy on the hot dog truck would quickly wrap in the wax paper. And that was that when you went to unwrap the hot dog, all of the chili and cheese would be stuck on the paper. Mm-hmm. So it was like, and I didn't understand sopping. I didn't know sopping until I had went and studied Low Country, down in the Carolinas and in Charleston. Sopping is a whole thing. Okay. We use the bread. We don't let anything get away.
Okay. I was going to ask you what that was.
Yeah, I'm going to get you into that sop. We're going to talk about that sop. It's a whole, yeah.
Okay, that's basically using the bread to get the gravy on.
To get the gravy.
Okay.
We won't leave any traces.
Yes.
And so now that I think about it as far back as I can remember, I think my thought process has always been about solving problems. More specifically, challenges that I had. So I remember getting a hot dog from JJ's Hot Dog Cart in Newark by Branchburg Park, and the chili and cheese being stuck to the paper, and that was a problem. How do you really enjoy the hot dog? Or going to Jimmy Buff's and getting the Italian hot dog, which also was wrapped in the wax paper, and you unwrap it, the mustard and the peppers and the ketchup is all over the wax paper and off the hot dog, and how do we make this make sense? I never liked the chili with the beans in it because I felt like that was more chili to eat than a chili for a topping for a hot dog. So I would make my own chili, and I would research what great chilies were like. There's a very strong halal and Islamic community in Newark, so buying chili in the can was a no-no because a lot of times it would have pork and different byproducts in it. So attention to detail as it related to making a hot dog that everyone could enjoy. I think that's where gourmet kind of started to form. I learned how you make your own, chili and onions. I learned how to make my own sauerkraut. How amazing that it was just pickled cabbage sliced really thinly. And so I would have, spicy sauerkraut, but then I would have, a half sour sauerkraut. And I was working all of that from that truck, in the summers.
So I'm sitting here thinking, as a creative culinary leader,
yeah,
right? How do you, or what is your perspective on healthy eating within our community? As you're able, right, to do the research and then make
Sure.
your own products yourself.
Yeah.
Some of them we know of in the mainstream, some of them we don't know because it has your flair to it.
Yeah.
What is healthy eating like?
Oh man, I would be a vegan every day if I could.
Okay.
But no day am I a vegan because I love the vastness and the beauty of food and flavors. I really appreciate, protein. But I am very conscious of how diet specifically in our community, most of our communities being food deserts, we've got more bodegas and Popeyes and McDonald's and fast food chains in our communities than communities of that of our peers. So I have supported a lot of work, specifically in Newark, the Hawthorne Avenue Farm, working with the Greater Newark Conservancy and different organizations. It's difficult when you don't have, there's only 24 hours in a day, so it's difficult to not have the time to go find a parcel of land, cultivate the soil, and build an urban farm, and then find people within that community that live in that community that will manage those components. So I would love to do more. I guess we can talk about, maybe a little later in this conversation what that looks like. But it's just really finding partners. We have partnerships where the city will give us the lot, but I don't want the city to give us a lot and then we don't build a farm, and now my credibility is, so really finding partners that can help to, support and cultivate those different things. But I'm very conscious of it. I only eat I only get the small oxtail and rice now. I don't get the big one, because when you get the big one, you want to eat all of it.
Right.
So just get the mini, the mini. And with the mini, you can control your sodium intake a little bit, minimize gravy and the rice.
This is a hard conversation right now, you guys, because there's so many analogies in this conversation that speak to bigger pictures that our community faces. And it's hard to not discuss those topics, because I feel as though we're individuals that naturally discuss those topics, just as who we are. So getting into the entrepreneurial side just for a bit, when things really started to kick off for your career, what did that look like for you? Just to speak to some of the people who are looking, and wanting to emulate what it is that you're doing today.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It's amazing as we sit here in the art factory, because I got to bring it home for a second, right? This 180-year-old former factory that made ropes for ships, vacant, dilapidated for years, and my partners, who I've been blessed to become partners with, David and Donata Garcia, saw something here. And I have to pause to shift here, because taking the catering division of my brand, Fresh Chef Caterers, and the food production side to the next level was really only made possible because of their vision and what they had invested in. I've ridden past old warehouses my whole life and wished and hoped, man, if I could just, but we don't come from those type of resources, right? So what they built here, the culture that they built here, and the opportunities that were here, kind of, it was an open opportunity for me to bring in a brand that I'd been working on for years, both in sustainability and in the culture of Fresh Chef. It meshed with what they had built here. And then in the city of Patterson being an industry city, right? First train, my understanding, the museum is actually just across the street from us. The first train that was built in the U.S. was built here in Patterson. Wow. A lot of these factories were ran by the waterfall, which is just up the block from here. And so they use natural power sources like the waterfall to power these different mills. The silk garment was created in Patterson.
Wow.
And so when I came here, just coming into Patterson alone, there was this entrepreneurial, you come down Route 80 and there's a castle that sits on the top of the hill. And it wasn't until I came here that I learned what that castle was. And it was one of the fabric tycoons who owned a lot of these factories here in the city on Garrett Mountain, who lived in that castle, right? And so the county has now made it, a historic landmark. But there's so many mansions around Patterson that I learned were the estates to the, back then, we talk about 180 years ago, people were making hundreds of millions of dollars in the textile and garment industry, and it started here in Patterson. So there was something that I found here that I also found as a kid in Newark, but I needed it at another level.
Okay.
and the glitz and glam of the largest city in New Jersey, I think, can get you caught up in glitz and glam. Coming to Patterson, I tapped back into the rustic.
Okay.
And the rustic is the grind. The lines aren't all perfect. The bricks don't all add up, but the building is standing. And so I think, preparation and then opportunity is ultimately what led to the success here in this space. And then me ultimately, becoming a major contributor and partner of where we're sitting today.
So now that we're here and your hard work is paying off and still paying off.
We're still working hard.
Right? What is your end goal? What do you want to?
We have recently, interestingly enough, and I was just having a conversation with Desiree Peter-Campbell, who is a very near and dear constituent, and I'm going to call her an advisor as well. But I said to her that I really want to get into acquiring smaller food production brands.
Okay.
Because if the truth be told, when I came here, there were 6 or 7 other catering companies. Majority of them, 20, 30 years of experience. They knew how to only make 6 shrimp to feed 100 people. They knew all of the tricks, and I didn't know any of that. And I didn't want to know any of that. If it was 100 people that, we were planning a wedding for, I need to have 200 burgers. Everybody needs to at least get 2, right? If not 3. And of course that drove my margins, exponentially high. But traditional catering companies knew how to make 20 burgers because they were like, we're gonna make 20 of these and 20 of these and 20 of those, and everybody won't eat everything. And I was just, and I still am, very integral. And it was like, I want everybody to be able to talk about these burgers on the dance floor. I want everybody to be able to say they experienced the shrimp. And so when I came here, there were several other food production brands, each of which have all dwindled out. And they have, to be honest, said to me directly, Chef Ameer, we can't compete with you, right? Your price point is realistic. I often tell our clients, we live in reality. And I follow the model of that of the Art Factory. That the venue, you could rent this entire space for 24 hours for $15,000 or for $12,000, depending on the day. And I didn't want to see the food component of a person's budget exceed what the venue cost. And just also living in the reality of like, okay, chicken and shrimp and fish do cost, but I don't want to make $20,000 on something I spent $2,000 on. Like, I feel like that's just capitalizing, right? So being more conscious, understanding that businesses are really built, with margins and capital. We really have been able to box out what was once the competition, and so because I have succeeded in that, the end goal for me is to now start to create those same opportunities for smaller food production brands, but needing to still help to control, because I came in and I was like, I can't charge $50,000. I probably could have, but I didn't. But I understand that a smaller food production brand coming in and having thousands of clients to choose from would see it as a cash grab. And so I want to be able to mentor and support those smaller food production brands to say, hey, if they can go to this bakery in Fairfield and get a cake for $300, you shouldn't sell your cake for $600. I know you're still baking them in your living room,
Right.
which is a risk in and of itself, but until you're able to open your own bakery, you need to be able to compete with Calandras.
Yeah.
Calandras has been open 100 years, I get that. But if you tell somebody you're gonna charge them twice as much as a Calandra's costs, you wanna be able to compete with the bigger people, right? So that you can compare, right? Or at least the client can compare. So this year we're focusing a lot on, bringing smaller brands back into the house, and giving them, again, creative control, their pricing control, but advising and coaching them on what that should look like as experienced entrepreneurs. And on the same side, as it relates to the creative component, that really is the heartbeat of the Art Factory, getting creatives back into the space. I know that when I came in, the focus was just weddings and events, right? Because what a creative would pay to rent a space, was a penny compared to what a couple would pay to rent the space for a wedding.
Yes.
And so that became the focus, but we're now shifting our energy or figuring out how to be able to do both, right? Let's host weddings, but still host creatives that need a place to live and don't necessarily have, as Dave called it, which we know to be very true, the struggling creative, right? You just starting out as an artist, you just starting out as a business, you don't have a major budget to pay rent for a space every month. But if there's a place that you could be and contribute to the community while building your brand, that's a lot of what we're focusing on going into this new year.
That all sounds amazing, and thank you in advance, for providing the advice that you're giving today, because basically what our friend is saying is do with what you have, right? Collaboration over competition is always the main factor, and doing your research and knowing where you come from is the main staple of why Mr. Natson is where he is today.
Yep.
So where can people follow along in your journey? Where can they reach out for advice or even accompany you in your services that you provide?
Yeah, we are, I'm actually putting the finishing touches on a book that I'll be releasing top of the new year entitled The Relationship Cheat Code Manual.
Okay.
Because the truth is, I'm here because I understand the power of relationship, right? And grandma would say you get more B's with sugar than you do with salt. We're going to use salt. Grandma would say something different, but I'll keep us censored. And so just being likable, right? And being in rooms, because the truth is people do business with who they like.
For sure.
I mean, I got 1,000 pastry chefs lined up, but I just like this person. So I'm sending you all the cake orders because I know that you're going to deliver the cake and so of course, social media, we're revamping my website now, which is IamAmeer.com. So people will certainly be able to connect there. This year, I'm going to have I pray to have a lot more time to be able to support entrepreneurs, creatives, and smaller businesses with strategic coaching, brand building, really just getting in the right spaces and understanding how to build relationships in those spaces, and just really working to continue to broaden my partnership, here at the Art Factory. I think this year I proved to the Art Factory that there are young creatives, because even though I'm a chef, I'm a creative, right? And an entrepreneur, there are young creatives that still have the respect of the work that people have put in, and are willing to come in and prove. And so I would say that I've proven over the last 12 months that I am worthy of. And I know a lot of times we get that misconstrued, and I ain't got to prove to nobody I'm worthy. No, actually you do. You do.
Y'all do.
We need you to prove. We need you to prove
Yes.
to us that you deserve it. We need you to prove to us that you are worthy. And in all of your personal greatness, we need you to show us that you're that. And sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes, in my case, it took a year. And guess what? I'm still proving, right? To this facility, to this beautiful 250,000 square foot building, that I would not have had the resources to buy this. I would not have had the relationships to find the funding to do this, but somebody did. And through relationship and proof, I've been able to become a partner. And so I get to help, I guess, dictate what the future of the space looks like, right? And so people that come in, downstairs in the hallway, I'm kind of like, hey, yo, my man, we worked to get here. And so there's spaces where a videographer could come and have a studio, but there's got to be some collaboration in the community. Perhaps you can go 6 months without having rent, right? But maybe you need 2 or 3 times a week to shoot content of the building. Like, bring something that shows the value of the relationship. So that's the goal. But Instagram, I am Ameer N. Twitter, Facebook, those channels are all the same. First, last name, Ameer Natson. But I get a little passionate about, what 24 is going to look like for all of us, and the possibilities that are to come from this amazing space that we're sitting in right now.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to be here. In many different ways and forms and fashion. I love what I do because, all of my guests are always preaching to me. And I really understand it, that they're preaching to me, y'all.
Yeah.
And I think that goes the same for the audience. So I really hope that y'all really were able to pick up on a lot of the gems that Mr. Natson has prepared for us today and advised us with. It is never too late to get started on your creative journey.
Absolutely.
Wherever it is in creativity that you lie, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, wherever you are, use your physical integrity to work hard, which is proving yourself,
Yep.
you know, as long as you are here with us. So
That's
I
right.
thank you for
I
sharing your
appreciate
time
you,
today.
and I appreciate the people as well.
We are going to explore more of this space and
Done.
have more of this wonderful conversation. So get your journey started today, y'all.
Amazing.
Anything else you want to share before we go?
Just glad to be here. Glad to keep working hard. Glad to keep building.
Perfect. All right, y'all. It's Adrian B. Little Miss Jersey back at it again. We will see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.
We are Jersey. 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 We are Jersey.